Today I want to talk about the place of emotions, and I want to do that using uh, our brother Tyrese Gibson's recent interview at the Breakfast Club, where he's broken down and he's cried and he said a very powerful words, a powerful statement, a black man cry in describing his feelings regarding his separation from his ex-wife Samantha Lee and all of the saga that has ensued afterwards, including having to go through the child support um, and all those crazy stuff. But before we get into that, I would like to invite you to hit the subscribe button for more um, episodes and updates of this beautiful work. Now, should a man cry? We've this is a topic that a lot of people have spoken about how growing up as a boy, you're told, "Oh, why are you crying? You don't cry as a man." And Tyrese seems to be challenging that notion about whether you should cry as a man. There's nothing wrong in crying as a man. As a man or as a woman, you are given birth to by a father and a mother. So you've got a dual nature. You've got the feminine side from your mom, and you've got the masculine energy from your dad. So some of us are more in tune to the feminine side, some can be more in tune. And you have a um, very balanced no side of the two. But ultimately, a man should be able to express his emotions. We are an emotional being as a man. And it's not in the domain of a woman alone to be able to cry. So Tyrese is right. A man should be able to cry. But I want to approach this from a different angle. In the situation that Tyrese is in, after a very, not to call their breakup with his ex, and then going through all of this child custody issues and going through child support system where Tyrese has been asked to pay an exorbitant amount of money to maintain a 5-year-old, monthly. I think about, if I'm not wrong, I might be wrong. I think about $20,000 a month that Samantha Lee, the ex-wife, is asking for. And you would ask, and rightly so, why a 5-year-old would need such amount of money. But that is not the question that we're dealing with today. What we're dealing with today is the place of emotions, the place of cry in this kind of situations. And bearing in mind our focus, looking at when separated, when you've separated from your ex, and there's no hope, there is no um uh you don't see any you don't see that relationship being repaired. It's broken up irreparably. In that situation, does emotion count? Does that have any impact? I don't think so. So I would like to disagree with Tyrese in this situation in terms of like whether you should cry. I think as a man, this is proven. Men are more driven towards logic, and in this situation where you have to do with where a relationship have been broken down irreparably, a logic comes to play. In the courts, in the system, in the child support system, child maintenance system, whatever it is, crying won't get you far. And that is why crying didn't get Tyrese far, and Tyrese had to spend time in the cell, the prisons. I was detained in the prison for according to the court, for unpaid child support. all those tears at the Breakfast Club didn't stop that from happening. So what am I saying, in essence? You need to know how to regulate emotions when it comes to it. That will not yield the result. We are emotional beings. I cry. But I cry in my pillows. I cry in my closet. I cry in my room. I cry in my bed. But when it comes to dealing with situations, when it comes to dealing with issues that have to do with your child, when it comes to dealing with having to spend time with your child, when it comes to fulfilling your responsibility as a father, there is no room for that. That will not work. That will not give you any advantage. So what am I saying in essence? Crying, there's no problem with crying. We should teach our sons to cry. We should teach our sons to show emotions. Whatever emotions we feel, however you feel, you need to let it go from your heart, from your chest of mind. We are human beings. So Tyrese is right to feel that emotion. Tyrese is right to feel that pain of someone you truly loved, and you feel like this person is taking you through this tough, difficult time. But when it comes to the child, when it comes to how you're going to parent a child when the relationship has broken up, there is no room for that. That will not bring any, will not yield any, I'm sorry to say, that will not give you any advantage. When it comes to child support, once a relationship is broken up, the child is innocent. The child has to continue to have the child father and the mother in his or her life. The child has needs. Now, how you determine that need? I can imagine this kind of exorbitant amount of money that's being called is ridiculous. I agree, 100% agree. But let's break it down. When the child breaks up, usually the child stays with the mother. And we know, there is no doubt about it, that some mothers might be bitter and then use that as a weapon, or use that as an avenue to rip off the father. Because I can say here confidently that I don't think any child, no matter what the circumstances, need $20,000 to survive in a month. But let's put it this way: when a relationship breaks up, and usually the child stays with the mom, you could apply for shared custody, what we call here shared contact, where you could have, depending on the situation, you live in the same city, you could have a 50-50. I've had it in the past. It don't matter the age. I've had it in the past where we share equally. There's the child is spending 2 weeks with the mother and spending 2 weeks with me. The children are spending 2 weeks with their mother and spending 2 weeks with me. And there's nobody's paying no child support or child maintenance because of equal amount of time spent with the child. You could do that. And I think it is even more rewarding because you could have your imprint on the child. You could have your influence on the child. I don't think that the quote we ultimately deny a father his place in the child, in the life of his or his child. So I think it's not even about the money. It's not even about not wanting to pay the money. It's just the right thing to do. It's not about money, because if the court can enforce, or if the court can put a father in court, in jail, in prison for not paying child support, support, I think the court should also be able to enforce it. That the father should be able to spend time with the child. That's where my interest lies. Because sometimes some fathers just believe, this system is against me. I want nothing to do with this child. I'm just going to pay. But no, you should be in the life of a child. But I don't think the court is able to enforce that. I don't think the court is able, but the court should also put in the same energy that it puts in enforcing the father to take his financial responsibility. Should be able to put into the father also being there in the life of the child, because the child needs the father, needs the input of the father. So what I'm saying in essence is the father should try and be in the life of the child. And that, in my own experience, if you go for shared contact or shared custody, then you don't have to pay any money to nobody. It means you have the child equal amount of time. But if the mother has to have the child for all of those times, and you have to go and do work and continue, then it's only right that you support the mother in this. But there are times it's easier said than done. There are situations where the mothers use this as an opportunity to frustrate each other, and the system approves it. But I think, again, I don't know about the United States, but in the UK there is these things are kind of like income based, which I don't know, depending on the income, we would also think it's the child support system is faulty. I personally do not agree in a court or in the system being involved in how a child's life is being determined. But I can also understand where it comes from, because some fathers, some parents, once they're separated, don't want to support the other parent, and you just have to enforce that. So I also understand where that comes from. But my point is this: you can be in your child's life. There's a way around it. You can be in your child's life, that is again, and not pay that child maintenance. So I think there's a way out. So it is not a hopeless situation, because you end up gaining being in your child's life, spending time with your child, having an influence on your child, and yet also saving your money. But if the mother has to bear all of this burden, if the child has to be with the mother all of the times, then it's only right that you support this mother regardless. But then again, I understand, the question could be, how much does the child need? But the question that we're really focused on is place of emotion. Crying won't solve it. If anything, it's going to cloud your judgment. So I think, my brother Tyrese and, every other man or fathers in such situation should apply more to logic. Should look at every legal means that they can, be in the child's life without having to sacrifice maybe that resources in a way where it's biting that into the pocket. So I don't think it's something that calls for tears. Tears wouldn't solve it. Crying wouldn't solve it. We need to know the place of tears where we need to cry. So we need to be strong. You need to read into the laws. You need to see, rather than crying, you need to say, what does the law says? What are my rights within the ambit of the law? What can I do? How can I reduce it? So I think that is the more logical way to approach this situation. So from my own experience, I'm just going to say, when you're faced with such situation, you could negotiate. You could sit down with your ex and look at in a very pragmatic way and have an arrangement between you. But in some situations, it's very difficult where the court has to intervene. But even as that, you could pursue shared custody. Pursue shared custody. Have equal man, have shared times. Even if you're having your child, even if it's not 50-50, having a child for a certain amount of time in the year, certain nights in the year, that reduces the money you have to pay. And it's a win-win situation because you then have to spend time. But what happens in situations, I've seen situations, I've known people where they feel like, oh, I'm paying this amount of money, I don't need to save the child, and they feel like, I'm just, I've paid, I've done my work. But no, we can't take it out on the child. Rather, we should find a way where we can spend time with the child without having to spend the money. So I would say there are ways you can do it. I have done it. You can do it. You can have your child come spend time with you. You can do it. You can have your child for about the same amount of time that the woman. There is no law that will say you can have your child if you're a good man. So you should pursue that instead to make sure you're having your child for, if possible, an equal amount of time as the woman. And I'm sure that is going to nullify how much you don't have to pay for that. You don't have to pay the woman if you're having a child for the equal number of time. So I would recommend that if that's not possible, even if you're having a child for certain nights in the year, that reduces the money you have to pay. So I would say the place of tears is, there's a place where you have to cry. I cry in my private. I don't need to come in public and cry. I can cry in my private. I can show my emotions in my private. But when it comes with we're dealing with these situations in public, we're dealing with this, you need to have a clear mind. And that clear mind has to mean you have to be logical, you have to be abreast of the law, and you need to apply the wisdom of the law. And that in my situation would be, if there's nothing to go about, pursue equal amount of time with your child, that's going to reduce, if nothing, reduce the money you have to pay for a child. And it's only a matter of time before the child becomes an adult. It's only a matter of time, and that is it. So I hope you've gained one or two things from this, and I'll see you next time.